Hi, I'm Naz here again from Spoken Quest. We haven't done a video in a while, so I thought I'd post something up. Again, Spoken Quest is a project that a few friends and I decided to do as a way to get our perspective and our opinions about politics, society, arts, culture out there, and we're really coming from the perspective of young female, young women of color who are working, going to school. We feel like our perspective isn't something that's recognized, represented, or valued in mainstream media, in mainstream dialogue, and in academia. So this is an important platform for us to get our voices out there and in that dialogue. So I would like to kind of do a video building on a project that I've noticed happening up on Facebook. And this is an event being done by the Reproductive Justice League. So they're doing an event called the Menstrual Tales, which is basically an event in which women will be sharing their experiences and stories about their periods. And it's done in poetry, in songwriting, um, in monologue, in play, whatever medium. But the idea is to share and reclaim this common biological experience, this function that women have. So, and I think it's really important because, in this patriarchal society, which loves to tell us, especially tell women, define our bodies, define our reproductive parts of our bodies for us and tell us how we should feel, think, and about them and what we should do with them. So I really appreciate that this dialogue is happening where we can reclaim that experience and reclaim that common experience and define it the way we want to, whether women find them empowering, disempowering, enjoy it, love it, hate it, whatever, as long as it's women for once who are defining it and reclaiming it. I think that's the most significant part of this. Um, I think so. I wanted to build on their idea by sharing my own experiences. Well, I want to share two experiences about my period. Um, first one is the first time I had my period, and the second is the first time I had to buy pads when I was on my period. But it was the first time that I had to buy them without my mom, and I had to go with my dad instead. So yeah, both stories involve my parents, and they both speak to the idea of, um, you know, especially as a young girl, like what an influence external factors have, external cultural factors have on defining your body for you, and making you feel a certain way about your body, um, and telling you pretty much how you should feel and see your body. So that's what I'd like to share. So yeah, my first period. I think at that age, at that grade 5, 6, 7, 10 to 12 kind of age, um, there was this sudden I think it was a lot to do with social pressure, but the sudden consciousness that we had, my friends and I, of our bodies, and we were suddenly aware that we had bodies and that we felt like we had to be aware of it, um, and aware, not in a good way, I think, not in an empowering way, but in a way that we started that's when we started to build that ideal woman in our head, and we're trying to compare ourselves to what a woman should be and trying to figure out how we should get there. And that's when, at least for me, I began resenting my body, rejecting parts about my body, and really hating the way I looked. And again, this was at a really young age. Like these social pressures start at a really young age. Like I was 9, 10. Like I would consider myself still a baby at that age. You barely know who you are, and you don't know who you are, and now you're suddenly told that you have to be aware of your body. But there was a huge jump. There was this huge desperation, this obsession for my friends and I to jump into puberty. We wanted to get to puberty as fast as we can. We wanted our periods, the hips, the boobs, and we wanted to be women pretty much. And unfortunately, we didn't want to be women for the right reason. It wasn't about, the empowerment and, the how amazing it was to be women, but it was really to be socially acceptable, and that social acceptance was built on an image of sexual sexualization of girls. Social acceptance was ultimately, social acceptance from boys who wanted from social acceptance from boys who've been socialized to see their, you know, to see other women and their female classmates as, sexual objects. So we, I guess, we wanted to be that sexual object, so we were really desperate to have our periods. So, and that's the other thing is you know unfortunately, like, in sex ed, they teach you about all the biological functions. They describe what's going to happen to you biologically, but they don't really teach you how the significance and the importance of those biological functions, and they don't really teach, especially girls, how to feel empowered, by the changes that we have in our bodies. You know, and again, that's a need to reclaim that. I think that's something that we need to look at sex ed. Reclaiming that and teaching girls how to feel empowered by those changes, and even teaching girls how to feel empowered and proud of their bodies before those changes. Reclaiming that girlhood and enjoying that girlhood, and not necessarily pressuring ourselves to jump right into this whole world of boobs, hips, and blood. So yeah. So the first time I had my period, I think it was like the last of my friends to get it. So I was like, whoa, when am I gonna get it? What's wrong with me? But eventually I did get it. And it was after a family trip to Victoria. We spent a weekend in Victoria where we had gone on a ferry to, and it was a pretty epic adventure for my family because those kind of things weren't financially feasible or something that we really thought about doing often. So after this big epic adventure with like all my relatives and my family, the morning after I felt this weird pain sensation in my stomach, but of course it was just me having my cramps and I didn't realize it at the time. And I went to the bathroom, I looked down at my pink underwear and I noticed that it was stained in this crazy bright red color, and I was just freaking out. Like, even though I had really wanted my period and was desperate to have my period, I was like, this is really traumatizing. And I think again, this is where I think sex ed goes wrong. It's like I couldn't really tell, I didn't really understand what my body was doing, why it was doing it, and so I was a little freaking out of it. But after getting over the initial shock, I went through that phase of like, oh hell yeah, I got my period, so I'm gonna be all woman now because apparently that's all you need to do to become a woman is to have your period, or at least that's what I thought at the time. Um, so I remember walking over to my mom and I was like, yeah, I got this, yeah, and I was like, Mom, I got my period, and um, the mood really shifted at that time. My mom looked at me not with the same excitement that I had. I could tell from her face that she was disappointed, and is disappointment mixed with a lot of fear, I think. The fear of, you've lost your girlhood, you've lost your innocence, your body's changing, and now it's capable and it has the potential to do and be many dangerous things. Um, mainly that being sex and getting pregnant at the wrong time, right? Um, it's like there's so many things that could happen to you now as a woman that that couldn't have happened to you as a young female child before puberty. I guess I don't know. Um, and at least that's the sense that I got from the look on her face. And then she just told me to really discreetly, like, meet me by the bathroom. And so I remember meeting her by the bathroom, and she was giving me the tips and the pads that I needed. And um, I felt really let down in that moment because, and I hate saying that I felt let down by my mother, but I really did, and I don't blame her for it, but I think it has a lot to do with the culture that we live in. But like, I felt like this could have been an experience that I could share with her, and share with her as a woman. But I felt this became an undercover operation where I felt really disappointed and almost ashamed of what my body was doing, even though I couldn't control it. It's something that was part of who I am, and I didn't really understand it to be a part of who I am. I didn't feel the want to reclaim it anymore. Um, sorry, my computer just died, but it's alive now. Yeah, it just felt like I just felt ashamed, I think, and it was weird. Like in that moment, I was like, yeah, yeah, it was just a lot of shame. And then the second story is about how I went to the mall telling my dad that I needed lotion and food supplies, but I really actually had run out of pads, and I was like 12 or 13 at the time, or 14, I think. And so I went to the mall with him under false pretenses, and I got the pens that I didn't need, I got the lotion that I did need, but then I also threw a bag of pads in there. So I remember going to the checkout and putting it on the conveyor belt, and he saw what I had really bought, and he figured out, oh, this is what you really came for, and the look on his face wasn't my mom's face was fear and disappointment. His face was just plain disappointment, and he looked away. And in that moment, you could tell as his daughter, like what's going through his head is, is that my little girl isn't my little girl. Like she's not, that innocent little girl anymore. Like she's becoming into this thing, this creature that body is changing, and like she's getting to that next stage of her life where things are going to become dangerous, and like you know you can't control your body, and you can't control what the world's going to want to do with your body, that sort of thing. And I think he became fearful for me, like fearful. That's when both my parents, I think, became even more fearful for me. When I go through those changes, but from both those experiences, I think the most like the thing that came apparent to me the most is the different, the complete loss, the complete, how disempowered I felt when it came to defining and reclaiming my body. Like I felt like I didn't feel like I don't feel like until now that I'm really getting to know my body and reclaiming it and understanding it and feeling empowered by it. In those moments, in my preteen years, it was the social pressures that I faced in school, about kids telling me what my body should be and how what a socially acceptable body is. And then my parents, and patriarchal our patriarchal culture teaching us that we should be ashamed of our biological functions and be ashamed and discreet about what our bodies do. So yeah, those are my two experiences, and the kind of thoughts that I took away from it. I really hope that this project really takes off, from the Reproductive Justice League, and hope the other girls on Spoken Class will also be willing to share their stories, because I think this is our body, and we should reclaim it and define it on our own terms and share our experiences in a way that we feel comfortable, in a way that we feel empowered, doing so. And I think now, when I look at it in retrospect, I am learning to really enjoy my body, and love it, and love the functions that it has, and the abilities and the capabilities that I have as a female, to be able to have that capacity to give life that a man will never know, and that man will never experience. I think it's bullshit that women are taught to be ashamed and discreet and secretive about having a uterus, about having a period, about having a vagina, and people and men with their dicks are allowed to walk proudly and freely. So utter bullshit, I think, and I really hope that women reclaim this and don't feel the need to be hush hush about it anymore. Um, in my last minute, I hope that you guys check out a video by Stacey Ann Chin. She's a spoken word artist. She does a video called My First Period, a wicked spoken word piece, about her first period as a young girl in Jamaica. One of my favorite spoken word pieces of all time. A friend showed it to me, and I loved it. So um, that's it for me, and happy reclaiming and happy enjoying the experience of being a woman. Uh, love your cunt. Bye.